I want to speak a foreign language fluently, but I don't know how. Isn't there any good method I can adopt to brush it up? Don't forget to subscribe to Lang Explorer to show your support. You're good at reading and writing a foreign language, but words don't come out of your mouth when you're trying to talk. Your efforts to go regularly to a language school aren't enough to have a smooth conversation. If this is the case for you, what's wrong with you? Can only genius speak another tongue? Don't worry, you can definitely get it over. You can't speak it simply because of the lack of practices to pronounce well and speak. Once you start practicing an appropriate method we'll show later on this video, a few months will be enough for you to talk much better in a foreign language. There are basically 3 reasons why you're unable to hold a conversation in a foreign language. 1. You can't understand what people tell to you. 2. You can't express what you want to say in the target language. Or 3. You can't communicate with them due to poor pronunciation. First of these, you can't understand what people tell to you, is rather a lack of listening ability than that of speaking, so we won't focus on it on this video. On this channel we'll cover listening strategies in the near future, so check us regularly. Today we'll delve into 2 other issues on the speaking side. You can't express what you want to say in the target language and you can't communicate with them due to poor pronunciation. 1. You can't express what you want to say in the target language. First of all, it's quite likely that your speaking skill is still low if you have this issue. As far as English is concerned, you've been using it since childhood and are used to speaking it on a daily basis, but in the case of the target foreign language, you had little chances to read aloud and aren't skilled enough yet to respond quickly in situations where you're required to react immediately, such as in a conversation. So, you need to spend more time training to speaking that foreign language to improve this skill. It's important to note, however, that going to a language school alone won't necessarily improve your conversational skills. Most conversation classes are group lessons where, by definition, each student has only a limited amount of time to speak. For example, in a 60-minute lesson with 5 students and a teacher who speaks 20 minutes to explain or respond to each student, the 5 students have 40 minutes to speak, or only 8 minutes per student. Of course, the teacher can teach you various phrases and correct your pronunciation and expression errors, but it isn't still necessarily efficient in terms of cost effectiveness or time effectiveness. Private lessons, instead of group ones, allow you to speak for a much longer period of time, which increases the time effectiveness, but the lesson fee is much higher. Sometimes cheap online conversation lessons are available with teachers in such countries where labor cost is much lower, making them quite affordable for a number of people. But actually, there are better ways to learn if cost effectiveness really matters to you. A useful method for those at the beginner to intermediate level, in other words, those who still lack conversational ability, is to use phrase books with CDs or videos on YouTube where such phrases are shown. By doing so, you'll not only learn phrases and words that can be used in various situations, but also be able to listen to and imitate the pronunciation of the phrases, improving it although not as good as native speakers. And if you're at the intermediate level or above, we'd recommend you to read aloud those website contents to start processing information in the target language. You may remember that you were required to read aloud textbooks in English when you were a child, and this was an essential process to improve your thinking ability in your native language, English. So, you can do the same in a foreign language to build up better ability to express yourselves in that target language. Also, you can find nowadays many websites which turn written texts into MP3, with better and better pronunciation resembling the real narration by humans, including this very video, so you can use it to help you speak better, on top of listening to it. These training sessions can be easily done at home. Especially if you use a computer or a smartphone, you can improve your language skills by pronouncing what you hear. Do this practice some 15 minutes a day, and that'll be enough for you to memorize various expressions and to gradually start thinking in the target language without having to translate from English. As your brain gets used to it, it'll be easier for you to come up with phrases immediately and to enjoy smooth conversation in the language you're currently studying. We have to admit that you won't learn expressions to be used in daily conversation if all what you do is to read aloud such written contents, but this can be covered by using various conversation materials or by taking language conversation lessons depending on your financial resources. In this channel, we regard conversation lessons only as a means of incorporating the use of that target language into your daily life, and we'd like to recommend reading aloud various documents to improve your speaking or oral expression skills. Another way to improve your speaking skills, apart from lessons at language schools, is to leverage language exchanges. Unlike lessons, participants there are basically on equal relationship, and you can quite often find somebody who speaks the very language you're learning to exchange it for your English. For instance, she's from Mexico and teaches you some Spanish while you teach her English. Such events take place quite often in large cities, so it's a good idea to go there if you have such an opportunity. Especially in such exchanges with more foreigners, it is much more likely for you to find the very person who speaks your target language and to have a conversation that is practically more intense than a private lesson, without spending much money. 2. You can't communicate due to poor pronunciation. Another major reason why you can't have a conversation is that your pronunciation isn't understood. You speak with your heavy English accent, ignoring how each consonant or vowel should be pronounced in the target language, and natives find it harder to understand you. In this section, we'll provide you with some tips on how to improve it. First of all, you need to understand that each language has its own phonology, which differs significantly from that of English. One example is French, which has its own vowels and consonants. Despite some are also found in English, others are so unique to French that you'll really need to master to make it easier for French speakers to understand you. Such pronunciations include
E, U,
and nasal vowels, and, as well as consonant,
R,
and subtle differences such as the lack of dark L, so salt in French is
sel,
and no aspiration of P, T and K, point, T,
T,
calm.
calme.
You need to be familiar with it so your pronunciation sounds easier to be understood. Secondly, it should be stressed that the vowel system in English differs a lot from that of other major languages. People tend to think that Spanish is easy because it has only 5 vowels with similar ones in English, but actually, some Spanish vowels are slightly different than English counterparts. Therefore, it's very important to pronounce each language's vowel very well to diminish your English accent and enhance the chances that you're understood. Thirdly, some languages have more features than only consonants and vowels. One of the most popular languages with hardest pronunciation is Chinese, as its tonal and words with same consonants and vowel are distinguished by tones. Mandarin has 4 tones, such as
Ma, 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 ma.
While Cantonese has 6, and it's possible to say
Ma, 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 ma.
Mom scolds the horse. Other Asian languages, such as Vietnamese and Thai, also have their own tonal system, so it's fundamental to correctly hear and pronounce each tone to master them. Fourthly, some languages have a series of consonants which are unknown to native speakers of English. For instance, Hindi, Punjabi, Tamil, and other languages in the Indian subcontinent, on top of Chinese, Russian, and Polish, have retroflexes, and you need to change your tongue shape to be able to pronounce them correctly. Examples include
中
in
中国
China in Mandarin,
жаба,
toad in Russian, and
tongue,
leg in Hindi. It's very important to master such sounds if you're eager to be fluent in such languages. Now, let's summarize what we've learned in this video. You need to do the following to improve your speaking skills. 1. The main way to practice speaking is to practice reading aloud texts, phrases, and so on in a foreign language. Language conversation classes and language exchange should be considered as merely supplementary to your practices, which can be done at home. 2. Sometimes your pronunciation in the target language isn't good enough so people can grasp what you mean. Each language has its own phonology, so study it hard and try to pronounce well enough that you can be easily understood. Thank you for watching this video. We're looking forward to seeing you in the next video.